Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy Siskind. I'm the author of this fantastic book, potentially the best book ever, called Playing Solo Jazz Piano, and I thank all of you who have already ordered it from my website. Those orders are coming in like every day, which makes me so happy and incredibly wealthy. I'm joking, I'm really poor. But today I want to talk to you about a couple of improv games that you can try. That were inspired by this Miles Davis solo, Freddie Freeloader, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works. If you guys haven't heard this solo, shame on you, go listen to it right now. It's one of the best jazz solos of all time, and I'm going to show you one of the many things that I think is really extraordinary about it. So let me just play it for you first. I'm just going to play the first little bit. Okay, so that's the first chorus and a half or so. And, there's so many different things we could talk about with this solo. The phrasing is really interesting. The melodic shapes, the rhythm, the use of quarter notes, the use of these different modes, the way that he kind of sticks to the modes over the blues form. There's so much to talk about. But what I want to talk about today is actually probably something you might not be used to talking about when you're thinking about improvising, which is register or range. And so what I want to do is go through this first passage and look at what the highest note is and what the lowest note is, okay? So obviously, at first, he starts just on these 3 B flats. I once had a teacher that called these the 3 most famous quarter notes in jazz. And actually, it's funny, if you know his Autumn Leaves solo, he starts with 4 quarter notes. Again, kind of repeating the note, very similar. Okay, and then the highest note, I'm going to keep track of the highest note first in this blue pen. It's going up slightly to C, goes up slightly to D flat, E flat, continuing on, goes up to F in measure 12, goes up to A flat. So he keeps on reaching higher and higher as he goes through the solo. We could do the same thing. We could keep track of the lowest note. So it starts with this B flat. It's in a thinner red pen. Goes down to the A flat, goes down to the G, goes down to the F, continuing on, goes down to the E flat. And then if we keep going, it goes down to the D flat. It's almost going note by note down, right? A little bit lower and a little bit lower each time. Now, we could certainly discuss, was this intentional? Was it just complete chance? Is this something he thought about? Is this something he practiced? I don't really know. But I think it's interesting and I think it's useful data. And I think that we can design some practice games based on this. So let me show you a couple things that we can do. The first is simply practicing using some limitations. So instead of thinking about necessarily using a single scale or device or mode or arpeggio, let's say I'm going to play a whole solo on a blues and B flat between this F and this C. This is kind of cool because it makes us very conscious of those top and bottom notes. And it also forces us to be creative in some ways that we might not be able to. We can't play any of the licks that we might usually play, for example. So let me see. If I had to stick between these 2 notes, here's just one thing I could do. Interesting, and we can move that window. We can move it down. We can take a same fifth and go from C to G. That forces me to do some things that are less comfortable. It's not exactly where my ear goes. And part of the job of practicing is to force your ear to go to different places. I actually heard about an exercise the saxophonist Steve Coleman had his students do, where he would have 2 different fifths, and he would say that you could use either. So maybe from here to here, and then from here to here. So I have to play in between here, but I can't use the stuff in between. So that's kind of interesting to think about, right? So it could be that I'm playing. That's tough. It's really tricky. And you could even think of using dissonant notes as your outside notes. And by the way, I'm doing this with a fifth, but you could use any interval if you want a few more notes. But, what if my two notes on the outside were B and F sharp? We're going to get totally different possibilities. And it's going to encourage us to think about how we could incorporate those notes. So that's one possible exercise. I've noticed that some musicians, including saxophonist Stan Getz, they really like staying within an octave. That they like highlighting kind of the two notes of the octave. So you can try that same exercise within an octave. But then where it really gets exciting for me is thinking about expanding, just like Miles Davis does, point by point, outwards. And so one thing that you can do is you can practice playing multiple blues choruses. And you could practice expanding your outer limit up each blues chorus. So, for example, I could start with this. I think my original fifth was F to C, and I'm going to make this C the highest note for the first chorus. I'm going to go a little faster. And now I can go up to the C sharp because it's the second chorus. It's so much easier now. Up to this D. You know where I'm going next. This is E flat. E next. And now I've made it for the full octave. It feels so satisfying to get there. It was such a slow, steady climb that we made to get all the way up to that F, right? Same thing as Miles Davis does. We can go down like he did in the red pen, and we could start with that same fifth, let's say, and then we can add a note on the bottom side. So now I'm going to go from F for the first chorus and then down to E, E flat. And it's going to have this different feel. Now, we're not quite ascending, but we are expanding the range. So let's check out how that would sound. I'm going to go a little faster again just because it's going to take forever because we're going down my half step. So here we go. Now we go down to this E. See, I messed up at my own game. And then what's really fun is you can go both directions at the same time. So let's see if I mess this one up. So I'm going to start a little wider here. I'm going to start with this octave from F to F. And then in the second chorus, I'm going to go down to the E, up to the G flat, and I'm going to continue going out each chorus. So I'm starting with F to F. Now I'm going out to here. So much real estate to cover after doing those exercises with the fifth, just inching along. And one of the things that's really nice about this is that, you know, on the piano, we don't think a lot about limitations of range, right? It's as easy for us to play this C as it is to play this F as it is to play this D. But basically every other instrument, think about a violin or a trumpet or a vocalist, it's more difficult to play at the extremes of the range. So there's a sense in which Miles Davis's approach here of starting kind of in the middle and going out makes a lot of sense because it is basically increasing the drama. Now, I realize that I'm asking you to do over multiple choruses what Miles did in about 16 measures, you know, so you could certainly also speed up the process. You could start. The high notes mean a little bit more. They might not feel like a struggle. It might not feel like, you know, you're intensely having to push them out, but you can give that kind of sense of reaching for it, which I think helps to make the music a little bit more exciting. Someone I think who's great at this is Keith Jarrett. Keith always feels like when he, you know, if he plays Somewhere Over the Rainbow, you feel that first. It feels hard for him to get to that octave, even though you know that physically it's not hard at all, but he's really hearing how difficult it would be for a vocalist or a violinist or a trumpet player to make that octave leap. So I think if you're a pianist watching this, that's something that you could learn from this. So I hope that that was helpful and fun. I think it's a really neat thing to play around with that's going to get you improvising differently, using these range limitations. Once again, my name is Jeremy Siskind. I appreciate your likes and subscriptions so much, and I do love it when people order my book. You can get it from jeremysiskind.com if you're in the United States. If you're not, you can get it from Amazon, or you can still get the PDF from me. So thanks so much, and I'll see you soon on this channel. Bye-bye.